What is going on, guys? It is Laser here with another weekend video analysis, except it's not the weekend. It's Thanksgiving if you are in America. It is 2 p.m. in the afternoon. The stock market is closed. It opens up briefly for a short session for half a day tomorrow morning, and then it'll close early again to recognize this Thanksgiving long weekend. And I figured since I had some time off today, let's just get this video out and share my analysis. I know it's been a very volatile week for the entire stock market. I've been actually dropping some tweets. If you're not already following me, definitely follow me on Twitter. Before I kind of begin, I just wanted to kind of tell you, if you're making a big financial decision, please do your own due diligence. Please do your own research. I'm just a guy who loves this stock. I love sharing where I see the stock going. And that's what I'm going to try and do going into next week. We do things differently here. We like to look at not just a technical setup, and we look at the Fibonacci, which most people should do, but we like to look at the velocity. It's a custom indicator that I use to try and find divergences and just try and see where things are. I like to analyze also the rest of the stock market to kind of add different pieces of the puzzle pie. So I'll be looking at BABA, BIDU, KWeb, JD. I also like to look at the Seng index, and I like to look at the US dollar. And we're going to try and do all of that today. But before I begin, just a quick short story. I just wanted to share you a story about my son. He's 6 years old, and it occurred to me that his long-term memory, it doesn't work as good as adults do. When I ask him if he remembers things from just 1 year ago when he was 5, he can't. He can't remember things like even sometimes 6, 7, 8 months ago. And I have to remember that children don't have long-term memories, and it's a nice, friendly PSA reminder if you have little ones at home. Record, take pictures, take videos. I've been so bad at doing that, and that's going to be my go-to going into next week, is to take a bunch of photos and take a bunch of videos so that when he's older, he's going to remember. You forget about it, especially when you're in the moment and you've done it so many times. But if there's anything fun that your kids are doing, capture that if you can, because yeah, maybe you'll remember it, but he won't. He or she won't. And so that is one thing that, it's just a quick little short story before we dove right in and talked about NIO. Now, enough about quick story time. Let's talk about price targets. We'll talk about my last week's video as well. I know a lot of people are always interested in price targets. I dropped them. I said 515 is a possibility. I did tweet at one point and I said, oh, well, maybe not. Let's look to see this technical setup here. So far, I like it. I like what I see here. Let's take a look here. I think I had this drawn out. Yeah. Interesting. What can I say? The goods. So price target, I had 515 on the downside, which is a major Fibonacci target. Let's just do that real quick here, guys, so you guys can see together what that Fibonacci target is. So if I go from the bottom to the top of this rally, switch this to a log scale, you can see at $5.15, that is a major Fibonacci. You can see it tried to break back over the 382, and now we're kind of consolidating. And we can even draw that out. It's broke out, and it's kind of consolidating. It's interesting. We're gonna have to really dive into the velocity to really see it. Will it go to 515? It's making higher lows. I think right before close, it started getting some bids actually. So we'll have to dive a little bit more deeper, but let's just start off on the 24-hour time frame, and we'll do a quick refresher. So we're gonna do a velocity analysis on NIO. So if you pay attention to the bottom indicator here, I've always said that the bottom confirmation will come once we break below this actually. So we had a pretty significant drop that just recently took place. And it looks like it's ready to kind of almost give you that, like it's oversold. Come on, guys, the whole market's oversold. You don't just drop 30% without giving you a little bit of something. You can look back in the history of a time of NIO, like you don't just drop that far. Like this dropped 42%, but you still get a massive bounce. A massive bounce, I think, will be coming actually very, very soon. It's nice that it's holding the low here at 525, and that's the question, is if the low's in. But we're going to go again and talk about like velocity. If we're going to get confirmation, and we always got to be cautious on any bounce that we get that is going to be below our trend line. So even if we do get a move next week, which I'm actually anticipating because of how oversold it is, if we get this move that kind of comes up, it could still sell itself off. Or it could, what I'm trying to say is, unless we get this break right over here above this trend line, which signals a breakout, you could see a bounce next week, and it could give you all the way back to 675. It could. But until you get that break, and until we get a break also on the velocity, we don't have a confirmation. It's just a continuation of this downtrend that could potentially happen. And so no matter what bounce we get, if it was 675, by the way, that's a 27% move. Woof! Big move if it did that. And I think it's completely possible. Totally possible. Especially with this massive, usually when you get this huge down move, there's going to be that big bounce move that kind of comes right back up. Now, if I pair that with the Fibonacci, upside targets, your golden pocket, which I always talk about the golden pocket. Your golden pocket from the top to bottom takes you right to 667. I mean, it's pretty close. I think at some point in time, if that bottom is in at 527, and it might just be, but to me, I would feel a little bit disappointed that we're just a few cents away. I want it to tag 515 and just get that out of the way. It's a major Fibonacci level on the bigger setup, which is where is it? I think I just showed you earlier. I'll show you one more time. I want it to tag that. It doesn't have to, because it's crazy oversold. I mean, like, to ask for downside. The reason I think I would want that is if it did that, if we did get a little bit more downside to start the week and maybe a gap down, for whatever reason, it takes 515. It just gets it out of the way. If it gets that out of the way, now we're matching that Robin Hood fractal, and we could make an argument that the bottom is in and it's ready to move. An argument can be made. But if it doesn't have to do that, I mean, it can come up here. There's going to be money to be made. Like, if you're looking to make money on NIO, I think there's going to be money to be made next week. And I mean, I guess Friday's a decent time to probably kind of look into it. I think next week or very soon, you're going to see a bounce that's going to come in. And then this thing is going to kind of come right back. I think whatever move you get, you'll get another opportunity to get right back in low. If you're swing trading, I mean, there's going to be money to be made, I think, on this bounce. Here, let's erase. We're going to go back to the velocity real quick here. 4-hour time frame. All right, let's look here. So I could see here on the 4 hours on our velocity, it's trying to break above the 200-day moving average, and it broke back below. It's trying to do something. Again, that lower low on the 200-day moving average is something to really like let you know that even if we do get a bounce, even if it's a big bounce, kind of similar to this, to expect some more consolidation. Unfortunately, like that's the way I see it from a velocity perspective. Let's just to make sure on a 2-hour time frame. Okay, on the 2 hours, you got that big bounce. It came back down. And I can think I honestly think like it's getting ready to grind higher. Like it's actually at a really decent price, like near 520, 540. I do think eventually it'll retake out that high at 630 and you'll get to 650, 670. And how that would look, how I would imagine that would look like on the velocity is it would look something like this. It'll kind of come up and then you would get that big drop. That big drop, I think, will be it. And then this is going to kind of go like this. And let's change that to yellow. Do you guys see what I'm seeing here? Now, this setup here, by the way, will give us the higher low. So I can see it grinding higher into next week. And there's going to be, I believe there's going to be money to be made. I think you're going to see that move that's going to come up. 650, 670. Okay. And then you'll get that whoosh, that oof, like, oh man, it's over, or whatever. And perhaps this thing gets dragged down, maybe lower, maybe. It's a possibility. But it would be quick. It would have to be fast and quick, and then you would get that V-shape recovery. Off it goes. That's where I'm leaning in actually on this. So I guess if you're asking me if it's ready for the reversal yet, let's erase the drawings. I don't think so. Short term, yeah. I mean, like, just look over here, by the way. Just study a lower low on the 2-hour time frame on this yellow line. What was the move that you got? You got this move, a rise up. It made a what percent move? 21% move, but it still was a lower high and it dropped lower. And because this next move is lower, I do anticipate. Now, where did this move go, by the way? Check this out. This part is the part that I think is going to be the most interesting. I mean, I guess you can make an argument here. So let's draw out this line. This is an ascending support line. We're going to play devil's advocate. We get the move up next week or over the next 2 to 3 weeks we get the Santa rally or whatever. It gives you that bounce. We're back up. You know, it stalls out and it wants to make one last drop. 488 is kind of where it would kind of come back down to, roughly around there, around that level. And I wouldn't put it past them because it's NIO that you would get like this like fake out where it would just come lower, tag 450, 460. It reclaims and it just goes. This is what I think. I think this would be the ultimate like faking out retail and everybody's saying it's over. I don't think so. And I go to the 1 hour time frame. So 1 hour looks very healthy. 1 hour tells me it actually already made a higher. Here, let's erase my drawings. If you bring your attention to the 1 hour, it actually already made a higher low here, a higher high, and it's poised and setting up to make a higher low here, which means I think it's getting ready to go higher. Yeah, it dipped, but that means it's a good time to buy, in my opinion, on that hourly time frame. And we're kind of like right here, right now in this phase where most of the selling is done, I think. But you're getting some consolidation, and then you'll get the rise up. And so that's what I think. I think we're going to get that move higher. And you can just draw out that simple trend line. Like it's here to here. You can see it as, I mean, technically you could see it as high as 7. What is the 0.786? I'm trying to be as bullish as possible. It's 695. I mean, above 695, you got to get really, really, really bullish. So if it can get above 695, the 0.786, then you got to question, like, maybe the bottom is in. So far, I'm cautious. On the 24-hour time frame, it also broke quite a decent amount below the midline. So I do expect it to snap back and bounce back, but that's what we're looking at. Okay. So that's price targets. I think going into next week, if we can take 515, but honestly, at this current price point, it's so oversold. Even if you do get that like last dip, you're going to get that big move up. So I'm aiming for upside. I'm aiming for the golden pocket minimums, which I think is 667. I always aim for the golden pocket because you see it over and over and over and over and over again. It's just a nice healthy level. Because it's NIO and it's oversold, I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see 0.698. So you kind of come down. So I'm aiming 6.98. So my conclusion is oversold. We're going to get a bounce. We got to evaluate this bounce, but I'm leaning that bounce will get oversold. So there's going to be money to be made. If you're a bull here, or even if you're a bear, you might want to get out the way. I think there's going to be a big rally that's going to be coming. Because if it gets to the 0.786, that's almost a 30% bounce. So that's bullish, short term, very, very bullish. And I can see it on the hourly velocity. It's slowly, it made a higher high. And what's most likely setting up here, is we're setting up for that higher low move. It's coming. We haven't seen the top of this short-term rally, and it's coming. That pretty much sums up my analysis here for NIO. You guys know what I think about Robinhood. I won't bore you guys and do that again. I do want to cover the rest of China to add the other pieces of the puzzle to see if it's all lining itself up. I'm going to look at Bitcoin a little bit today as well, just because I think it is a leading indicator. I think there is some correlation. We'll quickly look at that as well together. But let's quickly look at the rest of China. Here we go. We have BABA. So we got BABA. Let's go zoom out on the 24-hour time frame. We're still in this kind of like macro range here. We have not broken out, but it looks, it's interesting. You know, it's stabilized. I think you can see that lift on BABA. It's almost the same setup. I think we can see that lift on BABA into like 166, and then that final push lower, 138. I still believe that. And it could even look like this, which would look awesome. BABA pushes up, it gets the breakout on the daily, and then you get that pullback, first pullback, and it could still make lowers. So price targets for BABA, real quick, so we don't waste too much time here on BABA. I'm still aiming for around one. There's that gap right there, that 135. I think 135, but you get a little bit of that bounce back to 160, 170 first. Maybe take up that high at 169, back down. This is the way I see it, overall down. And of course, if you're looking for longer term, like, oh my God, if you're a BABA bull and you're actually in this play, where am I aiming? And I've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. My price targets for when this thing does want to rally, which it will rally, is up to the upper channel. It's broke out of this channel. I do think 250 is going to be coming on the menu soon for BABA. You'll get that next big move, I think, up to 250 and if it takes longer, I mean, like 256. And if you zoom out, that's just, it's completing. You can just see what it's doing. I can probably draw a line here. Yeah, right around, okay, well, that says September. I don't know if it'll take that long, but I do think you're going to see a big move. Big move coming for BABA. BIDU, I talked about this. Remember the accumulation, then we had the manipulation down here, and it broke back into this channel, which is quite bullish, I think, that it was able to reclaim that. It kind of broke back above. BIDU honestly looks like it wants to rip. I like that setup, that it kind of broke back above here. And it's really showing like this healthy level of consolidation, but we've got to be cautious. It did make lower lows. It did take those highs. So it honestly, it looks ready to go, BIDU. If you're a BIDU bull, I think that move could be coming soon here for BIDU. But if I were playing, you know, to line this up with my thesis on NIO with the bottom not really quite being in, you come up next week into 125, fill the gap down here at 100. Off it goes. That's what I think for BIDU. On the 24-hour time frame, it still looks great. Like and I kind of look back over here. Look at the move you got on BIDU over here, where it broke the 200-day moving average and the midline, even though it made that monster move. Where did you get? I bet you it was the golden pocket or close. It was the 0.786. So at the very least for BIDU, I'm expecting, assuming that bottom is in 140.53, and if the bottom comes lower at 100, which I think is possible, you would still at the very least say 140. I don't think it's done, because if I go to the weekly, huge, almost the exact same setup here on NIO. I think we're going to get higher highs and higher lows. BIDU, I really like, you know, you can just draw it out like this. That's it. Once it breaks through this line, I think it's going to be game time. Game time for BIDU. KWeb, I've always liked KWeb. Very interesting. You got that ascending support. Actually, can I do that for BIDU too? Yeah, you could. There's your ascending support. Can you do that for BABA? Yeah, you could. I'm not going to erase this. channel because I love that channel. Up here, maybe back, maybe it won't go all the way down, but you'll touch ascending support, which is 143, 144. And then JD, look at JD, where JD found support. It actually found support right on the ascending support. JD's interesting. Very, 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 very interesting. Because what it's doing now, and when it actually makes its move, it'll make its first higher low. JD, the risk to reward, because you're like at like extreme lows, it really has my eye here. And the reason for that is we have now the 200-day moving average finally broke it back above, as it did back in 2024. And when it made its higher low on the 24-hour time frame, you got this giant move. How big of that move was? It was a 100% move. Could it see a similar? I think so. I think you can see something pretty nice setting up here on JD. And then we're going to go here to, let's take a look here. So I like it, but it seems like it's not, like it's pretty badly oversold. It's below the midline. So we do need to get above, let's see, we do want to get above, just like how NIO, you want to get above this for that confirmation. We could see a lift. If you're in JD, some of you guys are in JD, a lift into 32 and then back down. Back down to the ascending support or just above it to 27. So you might get two lines. It'll look like this up here. Oh, where is it? Back down once more and off it goes. I think JD is setting up for a monster move. And again, so is Baba, so is BIDU, so is KWeb, so is everything. I think something big is brewing. Well, let's look at the US dollar. Oh, let's look at China first. China, the Hang Seng, our good old French Hang Seng index. Interesting. I had this drawn out from last week. If you remember, I had it drawn out. I said it would retest here and then come back down, which it looks like that's what we're doing here. It hasn't come up. So one more lift up to 26,451 and then finally targeting a bottom at 20, just under 25, maybe 24, which would, it maybe make some people panic with another 5-6%, like, quick candle drop. You could maybe see that. Not quite ready yet. Not quite ready yet on the Hang Seng index, but on the 4 hours, ooh, it looks ready to pump. Look at that. We got a higher low on the 200-day moving average. So maybe I can revise that. Maybe if it wants to go, it might make a big move. China could. This is a really insane setup on the 4 hours for Hang Seng index. Like super insane setup. Super. I'm going to try and show you. You had the exact same setup right over here where the 200-day moving average made a higher low. You got a huge Chinese rally, 6%. We had it right over here, which was a higher high, higher low, which resulted in another huge move. You can go back to multiple instances. It's usually marked a short-term local bottom. Interesting. Look at this higher low. Look at this higher low. So the only way this kind of would get nullified, by the way, is you get like this. It breaks down lower, and then it's like a complete psych, which is also, it could be a possibility. So, it looks good overall. China looks good, which kind of makes me more bullish on all of China going into next week, especially how oversold it is. And I think with the Hang Seng beneath the legs of all of the Chinese stocks, I think you can see that really, really big push, actually. So I'm actually super bullish going into next week for China. And then when we look at Bitcoin, I want to show you Bitcoin real quick here. Bitcoin is starting to see like this big bounce kind of coming in here. And we haven't quite seen that move yet on China. And I said, I think there's a little bit of a correlation here. And I'm going to show you for those of you who don't believe me. And people are like, no, it's not correlated. Well, I said, like, there is some correlation actually. Okay. And I'll point out the things that I saw. It might be more helpful. Okay. So on the chart is Bitcoin. So what I'll do instead is I'll open up NIO instead. It'll be easier just to do NIO. We're going to remove my drawings. We're going to add, let's take off this, add Bitcoin. Here's Bitcoin. All right. So for those of you that doubt me, okay. So remember when the tariff news in April happened? Don't tell me there's not correlation. Right there, it bottomed almost to the T. Okay. And yes, while it didn't fully correlate, where was the top of NIO? Oh, okay, let's see. NIO top right here. Where's the top of Bitcoin? Literally, okay, you're saying that wasn't a correlation move? Okay. How about here? When when Bitcoin was around the 70 and 60,000, and for those of you who watched it, and NIO was in this range, and finally you get that big move. How big of that move that was? That was a 100% move, and that was also when Bitcoin made a breakout. And of course, when Bitcoin sold off, you also did get that sell-off here on NIO. Now, it's a little bit different now, but look at this. You're telling me they're not correlated here? Jesus. Like that, did Bitcoin just have earnings recently? Because that to me, I think there's some correlation. And look, the day it bounced, that's when Bitcoin starts bouncing. It's a good leading indicator. It's not a guaranteed thing, but if you're NIO bull, you're going to be rooting for Bitcoin. You're going to want Bitcoin to go higher. Now, and that's why it's not a bad idea. And the reason and the thesis behind that is Bitcoin is still a speculative equity. It's not fully utilized, and it's a high. Typically, it signals risk on. And when Bitcoin does really well, typically you see Chinese equities do really well because Chinese typically are higher risk due to the geopolitical risk, and that's usually when you see some correlation. It's not one-to-one, but it is something to look at. So I think I've nailed the point here. I do believe there's going to be some correlation here. And if we can start seeing Bitcoin going higher and higher, perhaps we're going to get that next big move also on NIO. Timing, I mean, like, come on. It's all too perfect, actually, the way it's all perfectly kind of timing itself out. You're telling me they both bottomed here the same day with earnings? That's crazy. Anyways, and I know it wasn't just Bitcoin. There was also like the sell-off across the broad market on the stock market, which is tied to the US dollar. So this comes to the Dixie. Here we go. The Dixie kind of has me worried. So I'm going to delete Bitcoin because it's actually, I had this drawn out. It's still above. It broke above the 200 moving average. It's pulling back. It's made a higher high and it's making a higher low. It's holding support. Oh, it actually broke. Did I draw that right? I don't know if I drew that right. It's holding the support. Typically, these US dollar rising, and there's a lot of bulls in the market that are saying if that we'll get the exact invert. People are saying US dollar is breaking down and it's not too crazy. And they may be right. Maybe it breaks down. This is what we want. We want this. We want this move. This move will bode well for all risk on assets. It'll bode well for the Chinese stock market. You'll get that big move. So this is what we want. It has me kind of on edge here a little bit because as of right now, we're still hovering. Now, I want to bring to your attention the last time we were hovering on the 200-day moving average was probably right over here. Wasn't quite ready to roll over. Was right over there. And it wasn't until it completely broke under the 200-day moving average, it rolled over completely. Then you got this big drop. And this big drop, by the way, was front-runned for Hang Seng Index and Bitcoin and da-da-da-da-da. So let's just put the Chinese market here, stock market. Okay, quite interesting because let's take a look. Your bottom on the Chinese stock market was the top on the US dollar. And it soared. Now, it's not just China. Let's do the Bitcoin. They are all correlated here. Bitcoin, let's see if we got that simple. Actually, this is very, very unique and interesting. Bitcoin just went Bitcoin just absolutely went. It didn't even bother Bitcoin. Let's see if NIO was any correlation here to NIO now. NIO and the US dollar. Let's see real fast. We go here. Let's see. Do we have correlation? Kinda. I mean, like, almost. Look at that. Top starts to rally and starts to sell off. Almost in the same way. Look here. There's the top for your NIO rally, and it started coming down. And then when the US dollar started breaking lower, it also coincided with that rally here. I'm just looking at the most recent time. We can look further back, but and generally the US dollar is seen as a risk on risk on, risk off signal. When it goes up, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. So perhaps, and I'm just thinking out loud here, perhaps this is the way I think it's gonna maybe play out. This is gonna sum up my, perhaps we're right here in the cycle. Maybe not this dramatic, but perhaps we get one more push higher into the US dollar, because it hasn't rolled over for me. To me, rolling over, just so you know what rolling over, when I say that, it breaks over the 200-day moving average under clearly, and the can't bounce back above. And then it's taking time to roll over, and finally you get below the midline and you get the big whoosh down. Over here, broke under. Are you watching? It's rolling over and it's trying to hang on, and it gives you that big whoosh move down. And you can find that over and over, like multiple times. Big move. It was trying to roll over, but it kept breaking back above, and finally it couldn't do it here. Whoosh down. And that's what we want to see, but I think there's still legs on this US dollar. I think there might be still some potential risk on, which has my eyes still set at $5.15 for NIO, potentially $4.50. And before I wrap my video up here, I'm going to show you one more time on NIO. Where did it go? NIO. We're going to review the Fibonacci one last time, because I'm going to explain to you where I'm getting 450 from. So I go like this. Where exactly did I get 450 from? On the log scale. Golden pocket, 452 on that log scale. If 515 does not hold, 452. And then remember the timing that I talked about? Last thing I'll talk about is the timing. And then I swear I'm done this video. I'm pretty much about to wrap up this video. The timing was around, I said around December. Actually, I think what I said was I wanted to measure it like from there to there. There. 44. Okay. What's that date? That date is January 13th. Okay. This is like your extended bull flag. Bulls may not be happy about this, but I mean, you get this. Trying to take it down to 450. And let's do this for fun, because it's the end of the video, and I want to hype you all up for on these price targets. We all love hype price targets. Where does that take us? Even if it gives us this elongated move. There we go, 28. If this thing takes till August, September, I mean, like you're aiming for 28, guys. Like 20, you guys are all, if you exercise patience, I think there's gonna be that, and that's your start of your parabolic move, man. It's coming. Big moves coming. Big moves coming. But we got to get through this era out. And the reason why, from a timing perspective, if it took like essentially 85 days to clear up this uptrend, it'll take that long to clear up this downtrend. And so that's how that would look like. It would look like this. It looks messy on the chart. kind of looks like a real thing, you know? It kind of looks like the real deal. Kind of looks like the real deal when I look at it like that. Yeah, there you have it. That is my analysis. Longer term, but you know my short term. My short term price targets is I think there's money to be made. If you're a bull or you're looking to swing, I think there's going to be money to be made short term towards the golden pocket, towards 670. It's riskier. So if you are going in, I mean, the best thing when there's a lot more risk because you're kind of trying to buy just to bounce. You don't want to bet the farm. You want to size in nicely. But I'm still seeing a lot of signs that we can see this. This, because the Hang Seng Index looks really promising. And this, because everything that I've seen so far on the velocity tells me that we're going to get one more lower. That's it. That is all. I hope you enjoyed my analysis, guys. One last thing, and I just wanted to just do kind of a quick survey question for anyone that's kind of dropping comments. I'm going to be reading, especially for those that want to drop this. I wanted to know how many of you guys would be open if I created like a NIO Discord channel just to talk about the stock, along with potentially making the indicator available for those that are in the Discord and available to purchase. Drop a comment if that is something that you would be interested in. I'm not serious about that, but if there's a lot of people who are interested in doing something like that, that is something that I'll consider. But for now, this is all I can manage. But if there's a lot of interest, it might be something that I'm going to actually have to take a closer look and consider. Having said that, if you're in America, enjoy your Thanksgiving, your turkey dinner. And even if you're not, guys, enjoy your day off from the stock market. Don't forget to go outside, get your fresh air, go for a walk, get some sunlight. And I'll see you guys all next week. Thanks, and have a great day.